Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Simply Done Concierge. Here we are about in the middle of December, folks. I know you got a shopping list and you got places to be and things to do. The staff at Simply Done Concierge can help you be in two places at once, sometimes three. They are that good. So if you have things on your checklist you need done, please go to simplydoneconcierge.com. There's a little form. They'll ask you a couple questions on what you're looking for and what you need help with. Punch that in there, and they'll be able to help you and make your holidays a little less stressful. Hi, everybody. My name's Mike Manning. Welcome to Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, and the surrounding towns. Each week, 32 chapters and almost 600 members get together. Our goal is to help each other grow our business. And our local small business success story today is Dr. Tim Beck with NeuroFit Connections. Dr. Tim is in the Cary Connections group that meets Monday mornings at 8:15 at Hope Community Church on Buck Jones Road. Good morning, Dr. Tim. How are you?
Good morning. Good to see you.
Glad to have you on here today. All right, we're going to get into, I think you're the first one on the show, maybe the second that we've talked about these topics. So NeuroFit, okay, that is a simple SEC grad. That doesn't explain a whole lot to me, but we're going to go a little deeper. And so you and your wife, Jackie, own NeuroFit,
Yes,
and it's a developmental disability center where you work with people with ADD, ADHD, autism, and dyslexia, among other developmental disorders.
correct.
So, man, we had a wonderful cup of coffee the other day, folks, and I learned a ton, especially with a 5-year-old grandson who's being a royal pain in the butt to his parents. Tim shed some light on me, shed some light on that. A couple of things I passed on to my son. But why? I know it's hard for some people to admit, hey, I need to go get help on this, but why eventually do they end up coming to see you and Jack?
Because they've run out of options primarily. So when you have an issue with a child, most parents know right away that something's wrong, whether the doctor has said so or not. You'll find that there's, they've missed their milestones. They've um, doctors said, oh, well, looks like they might have a mild form of ADD or there's just something wrong. And so usually they'll come to us because they've run out of options. They've done all the things, the ABA, the OT, the speech therapist, the psychologist, psychiatrist, and it's not getting a lot better. And so they'll come to us to say, okay, we've done everything we think we should do. We're spending a ton of money. What can you do? How can you help us? And we go through their options and they're like, okay, let's get started. Let's go.
One of the things that you kept telling me about, and I kept trying to figure out what in the world, and I finally asked you about it. You, by about the third time you mentioned milestones, I'm like, all right, let's stop here for a second. What am I missing? But they're literal milestones in a infant to child's life that they pass through, and I would have never
Right.
connected the two. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so a developmental milestone is essentially things that we look for in children. So are they crawling by a certain age? Are they talking by a certain age? Are they walking by a certain age? Your pediatrician will check with what are called their primitive reflexes. So for example, one of the ones that all children are born with is what's called rooting, which is if you touch their cheek, they'll turn towards that touch because they're looking for the nipple to latch onto to start breastfeeding. If you put your finger in their hand, they'll grasp that hand. It's called the palmar reflex. So these are things that every child is born with. They're supposed to be gone for the most part by 18 months. One of them called the Bobinski by 2 years. So if these are not gone, usually a doctor will say, they've missed that, but it's okay. They'll grow out of it. The problem is that sometimes they don't, and when they don't, we know it's in our profession that there's an issue. So those are things that we look at. Essentially, what's happening is the primitive reflexes are stored in the brain stem. So if if they stay there past the time that they're supposed to be, like if you have a primitive reflex that's supposed to be gone by 3 months and it goes away at 4 months, not really an issue. It's a concern for us. We look at it and say, okay, that might be an issue, but it's gone. So, okay. If, however, at 2 years, you've still got, for example, rooting, there's a problem. By the way, with rooting, if a child still has that, they'll suck on their shirt, for example, they'll chew on things. That's a sign that they have rooting. So if a reflex is still around, what happens is because it's stored in the brainstem, the brain can't grow properly, not stopping physical growth, but creating new neural pathways as it should. So what we look for is, do you still have these retained primitive reflexes? If you do, that's a sign that your brain hasn't grown properly. And depending upon how it's impacted the brain, you might have, for example, ADD, ADHD, autism. If it could also be dyslexia, which is a different hemisphere of the brain. So those are things that we look for. And what a developmental delay or developmental milestone, if you missed it, that's an indication that there's a problem and we need to look at that.
So you go back with the retained primitive reflexes. So you go back and you'll address that. Is that the correct word to use?
Yeah. So we start with our assessment where we test for them. So we actually usually when we see with a child, for example, with ADD, ADHD, is they got 5 or 6 out of the 10 that we test for. Might be less, it might be more, but usually there's 5 or 6. And so then what we do is when we're working with the child, we'll actually go and integrate them. So we do things that cause those reflexes to integrate, so the brain now can grow as it normally should. And then what we do is we start stimulating that hemisphere of the brain to grow as rapidly as possible. Does that answer
ADD,
your question?
it does, yeah. ADD is one of those phrases that gets thrown out casually and liberally. And
Yes.
if we think back in my generation, when we I don't wanna say a lot of us probably had some version of that, but the way the teacher explained it was to our parents was, "Mike can't be quiet and can't sit still." And sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, he's got this and this and this," and sometimes it might be that, and sometimes maybe it's not.
Right. Yeah, we've actually seen a number of cases where ADD or ADHD is misdiagnosed. So, they'll come to us and we'll test for it. It's like, that's not what we're seeing. For example, we had a young boy who came to us. His parents said he was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and we tested and saw, no, he's got dyslexia. He's got wiggles, which is part of the actually spinal gland primitive reflex. So he got rid of the primitive reflexes that he still had. And then we started working on the hemisphere of the brain for dyslexia.
My niece is dyslexic, and it took a while as she's what's Hannah now, 32. Just got her
Mhm.
doctorate over the weekend, very proud of her. But it took a while
Congratulations.
yeah, it took a while for her folks to wrap their arms around what was the problem. And I don't wanna throw anybody under the bus when I say this, but when we get diagnosed or misdiagnosed, boy, I'm gonna mess this up, okay? Uh,
Yeah,
sometimes it's not that doctor's or that expert's area of expertise,
correct.
right? So there's some
Right.
things you are very good at. Others you would say, I'm gonna send you to somebody else to confirm maybe what I think I know, but I want an expert because that's what they focus on.
Right.
What kind of questions can we ask if our child is diagnosed with something along those lines?
Well, I would start actually with, have they missed a milestone? But
Okay.
and my belief is, going back to what you were saying earlier, Mike, that doctors recognize that there's a problem, but they don't know what to do about it, which is why you'll hear things like, "Well, they'll grow out of it," or things like that. And then if it gets severe enough, that's when they'll refer you to an ABA or OT or any of those things. Um, what questions can you ask is, well, A, what can we do about it? In terms of ADD, ADHD, usually you'll get, well, there's a medication for that. And in this country, it is illegal to test medications on children. So what you'll see happening is the medication, and I'm not a pharmacist, so I can't be exact about this, but what my understanding is they cut the dosage in half for a child. So take an adult dosage and cut it in half. And which, it works a lot of times, it doesn't. The challenge with medication is it doesn't target the specific hemisphere of the brain, or in other words, a specific problem. So you're putting a medication in your child's body that may or may not be effective. And you've probably heard, or many parents with children who have an issue have heard that, the kid becomes a zombie. Yeah, they don't no longer have the wiggles, but they're also not really there anymore. A lot of kids who are a little more, a little older will actually tell you, I just don't feel good on the medication. So, going back to your question, what can you do about it? Come see us because we'll do an assessment. We'll actually tell you what we're seeing and what can be done about it. Um, there's from that other standpoint, you can go see an AB or OT or those other therapists, and they will help manage the problem. They're not really going to solve the problem. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does, yeah. Yeah, yes, it does a lot. And again, getting to the right person because there and we put band-aids on a lot of things instead of dealing
We
with
do.
the actual issue. So yeah, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Um, how do we know if somebody is dyslexic or to the common person's eyes and ears?
You don't. I mean, other than they're not reading or doing the things that they should be doing at a certain age. One of the things about dyslexia is it's sometimes not a reading issue, but a hearing issue. Um,
Oh.
is we're actually taught um, to phonetically pronounce things,
Mhm.
right? For example, take the word triangle. Um, you see it, but unless somebody tells you that that word is triangle, you're actually not going to know. And with kids with dyslexia, many times what's happening is the sound is getting in, it's not getting up to the speech center of the brain, and that's one of the things that we test for.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would not have guessed that's the answer was audio.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, you were telling me that your wife, Jackie, is the child whisperer. If
Yes,
you can share the story you told me about the young boy that came in that day.
yeah. So we had a little boy came in. His name's Landon. He came in. When he came in, I think believe he was 9, if I remember correctly. And Jackie said he had a brain age of about 18 months. He came in. He was carrying a very big stuffed animal. He came in. He walked right into her room, crawled down under the desk, and just sat there. And so Jackie went and sat down with him, and they just talked for the entire hour
Underneath the desk.
underneath the desk.
Impressive.
And so she sat with him, and they talked for the whole entire hour. The next time he came in, he still had that stuffed animal. He came and went, did the exact same thing, but about, I don't know, a quarter of the way, a little bit of the way through, Jackie said, "Well, let's just do this one thing. Let's just play this little game." And so she got him to do something. And the the time after that, he came in. And so after a little while, he's actually doing all the exercises. He thinks he's having fun,
Mhm.
that, all we're doing is playing, but he's actually doing all the work. When he left, he was as near a 9-year-old as you could possibly get. He didn't. And one of the things that I love about him, he stopped bringing the stuffed animal in, but he used to think to sleep with a thunder blanket. I don't know if you know what those are, but
Mhm.
it's a blanket where it wraps you tight, like being in the womb, um, or being swaddled. Well, one day he says to his mom, "I don't need that anymore." And she's like,
Wow.
"Excuse me, what?" And he said, "No, mom, I don't need that tonight." And he said, "You can keep it if you want, but I don't need it." And so when his mom came in and told Jackie, she's like, "Oh my God, that is huge." And Jackie's very big about celebrating the wins. But the little boy and sadly, every kid who comes in loves her. And I say sadly because, as an example, we did an assessment on Friday, and she comes out, and I told the parents, I said, "Look, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. She's going to come out. She's going to go, I love her. I want to keep her." And they laughed and they go, "Yeah, sure." She comes out and, "I love her. I want to keep her." And that's what happens with every kid. So if I would let her, we would have, a couple hundred children as opposed to the 4 that we have.
Now, you prefer working with adults, whereas Jackie prefers working with the kids. Why
I
is
do.
that?
Is children are a lot easier to work with. They're very pliable and very compliant. I prefer working with adults because a lot of in my history and the work that I do, because I have a doctorate in hypnosis, I can actually just talk to somebody and get them to go where I want them to go and to be what I want them to be based upon the words that I use and how I use them. So for me, it's a lot easier to work with adults. Jackie's good at it with adults. I mean, she'll do all the things that she's supposed to do, but she'll tell you that adults are a lot harder to get changed because they're already set in their ways.
And you would concur that adults are Tougher patient.
Tougher patients. Yeah, there's another phrase we'd use, but yeah.
I can understand. So, all right, you have a doctorate in hypnosis.
Yes.
It, so I always like to find out kind of where everything started. Was there a medical practice in your family in any generation or any side?
Well, my mom was a nurse, but that wasn't where it started. I was actually a business coach, working on with systems, and I had been studying since I was about 11. I studied neurolinguistic programming and um, did a lot of reading about hypnosis. So I love the whole concept. And then this was 20 some odd years ago. I remember very clearly. I was sitting in my office and I just hung up the phone with a very tough client. And I said to my wife, I said, I think I should get a certificate or a degree. And she goes, in what? And I said, well, I've been doing this for years, working with these people and using the neurolinguistic programming and stuff that I'd learned. And I think I should get, a certificate in it. And she went, okay. And so I did that. And the guy who taught me, his name was Dr. Tad James. He was actually, if you look at neurolinguistic programming as a practice, it was created by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. Well, Dr. James learned from Richard Bandler and John Grinder, and he was actually the second person to get his certificate signed
Wow.
ever. Yeah. And so, he's kind of an expert. Well, he had his doctorate in hypnosis. And so after I got my certificates and degrees and all that, I said I want to do that. So I went and got a doctorate in hypnosis as well.
Now, when you're
Unfortunately,
go ahead.
Dr. James died before I could share it with him. But
Oh, very cool story. About it,
yeah.
yeah. Um, Now, when you're sitting around with friends and you talk about college and degrees, and the minute they hear you have a doctorate in hypnosis, do they like clam up really quick and get freaked out?
Yeah. Yeah, the question I get asked the most is are you going to hypnotize me?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my answer is always, what again?
yeah. And then you find out who has a good sense of humor, or they give you the blank stare, like, wait.
Exactly. Exactly.
How long did it take you to trot that line out? I like that.
No, not very long.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
very long at all.
I like that. What is your undergraduate degree in?
Computer information systems. So
And
I went to UCLA.
okay.
Yeah, and at UCLA they didn't have software engineering at that point. So it was computer information systems was what my degree was in.
Okay, so now you just brought Amnon into this. He loves computers. So what was the first computer you worked on?
Oh God, an Atari. Um,
Were you a video gamer back then?
no, no, I cannot stand gaming or designing for games. No, although I do like game theory.
Okay.
I love game theory because it's all about rewards,
Yes. Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which is actually a lot of what Jackie does in her practice.
Hmm.
When she's working with kids, let's do these two exercises and then we'll go play a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's very much about rewards.
My mom was a school psychologist for Wake County.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So cool story. This was back in the 50s. Boy meets girl in college. Girl drops out. Boy and girl get married. Boy finishes degree. Girl never finishes degree until later when the three kids are grown. Girl goes back to get her undergraduate, her master's, and her doctorate. Great story.
Mhm.
But for about 25 years, she was a school psychologist in Wake County. And I was curious on how she worked with kids and what they came to her with and stuff like that. And when she was going through the master's program and everything, she had to do a lot of practice testing. So my brother's friends would be at the house. And my mom would say, "Hey, I need somebody. I got to practice one of these tests." And four of the five of them went, "No way, we're out of here." And one would go, "Sure, Mrs. Manning, what do you need?" So I think the kid's name was Mitch. He was always her. So did you have to
Wow.
find test cases for your practice ones?
I did actually. Everything that I practice, everything that I do, I've actually had to either have done to
Yeah.
me or had to work with somebody to do.
Yeah. And it was amazing when I talked to her more about it, again, like Jackie does, let's play a game. So these
Mhm.
kids come in, they're drawing pictures, they're coloring, and she's talking the whole time. And she taught me how to cheer for the underdog. because a lot of these kids coming to her were like they, couldn't focus or couldn't pay attention. Of course, this was back in the early 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it was neat seeing people through her eyes and just a huge helper. So I applaud, and I'm sure you and Jackie get the same satisfaction out of that helping when when that 9-year-old walks out of there and not holding
Oh yeah.
the teddy bear and stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
um, so your master's degree is in what?
Actually, I continued and when I went to get my doctorate, I figured I was going to have to go to the master's program, and they went, "Oh, you've already done this. You don't need this." So I skipped all of that and went right for the doctorate.
Nice.
It was all practical experience because I've been doing it for so long.
Okay.
So that we
Y-
don't need to. I remember in
Okay.
college, I was in a COBOL course, and
Oh,
the professor comes up to me and he goes, "You don't need to be here." I said, "Well, paid for it. I probably should." He goes, "Yeah, but you know this." He
yeah.
goes, I'm gonna get, you're gonna graduate with this. You're
Yeah.
fine. You don't need to be here. You don't need to take the test. Like, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get to Amnon here for a question, but let me see if I got it right. So I dated this girl in college, Cindy, who had to take computer science, and I believe it was Cobalt, not sure. She had these punch cards,
Mhm.
and you would punch all these things through like 1,000, probably it looked like a stack of about 1,000. She'd hand it to you. You're working behind the counter. You'd turn around, run it through a machine. Here comes a printout, and like one zero's out of order or a one is out of place. Got to go back through the cards. I'm like, that's why I would never have done computers.
Oh, yeah.
What a mess. Amnon had a question for you.
Tim,
Yes,
go
sir.
back to gaming and kids. How
Mhm.
true is the myth that if you let a kid at early age play a game on the computer, that it really develops their hand-eye coordination?
That's not true, actually. And it might help with hand-eye coordination, but it also depletes the right side of the brain.
All right. See, that's
It also
interesting.
creates, foveal vision. So in terms of your vision, peripheral vision I mean, is, side to side, foveal is straight on. The more you're on a computer, the more you're on a device, the more foveal vision you have, the less peripheral vision you have.
Ah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the right side of the brain tells us right versus wrong.
No, yeah, it's right versus wrong. It's also stop. It's,
Yeah.
people say it's the creative side versus logic, which is true, but it's the part of your brain. Like if you look at a kid with autism, they've got a highly developed left side, so they're really, really smart, but a very low developed right side. So what happens from their standpoint is they are the part of them that says, for example, stop the ticking or the stim,
Mm.
or the activities that they would do, or the same is true with OCD for that matter. It's part of them that causes them to stop isn't there. They don't have the ability to actually stop doing that behavior. It's also like, like you see autistic kids, for example, who are very violent. It's because again they don't have that right and wrong. That's not developed yet.
Okay. Wow. Is of the clients that come to you, whether it's ADD, ADHD, autism, any of these other uh, disorders that they have, is there are there one or two that you just love that are kind of in your wheelhouse that you love dealing with?
No, there's no specifics because we don't care. And the diagnosis is nice because it allows us to um, pinpoint things or look at things and say, okay, yes, they have that, or based upon that diagnosis, we expect this, but it's not required. In fact, it's just for us, it's a nice to have. It's not a requirement. We actually prefer when a parent comes in and says, what we're seeing is, for example, they can't pay attention in
Mm.
class, they wiggle too much, they, all of these things, because then we can address those specific issues. And in fact, one of the things we do when we go to the child, when they come in, we'll say, what do you want to get out of this? As an example, we had a little boy who, in his entire thing he wanted to do is he wanted to be able to tie his shoes. And
Wow.
towards the end of the program, Jackie said, okay, you've been going through this for a little while. Can you tie your shoes? And he goes, I don't know. I don't have shoes that have ties. And so Jackie said, Dad, can you go give him one of your shoes? So Dad went and got him one of his shoes, and he put it on and tied his shoes. And he was so excited. He got to tie his shoes. And mom and dad's requirements were met. They wanted him to be able to, pay attention and be good in school and all the normal things that as parents we want from our children. But the little boy was so excited he could tie his shoes.
Mm.
And the next time he came on, he's like, "Look what else I can do! Look what else I can do!" So
All right.
it's great from the kid's standpoint because they're like, "Oh, I accomplished my goal."
Now, he was not able to tie his shoes for what
Yeah,
reason?
he didn't have fine motor skills.
Okay, I got you. All
Yeah,
right.
fine motor skills actually affect a lot of things, including speech and comprehension. Strangely,
Wow.
think about this. What do we all use? I mean, if you look at a child's handwriting today,
Yeah.
right? Let's say a 7, 8, 9-year-old, you're going to go, "Wow, that's pretty bad handwriting." Compared to, for example, my mother has got great handwriting. She had awesome handwriting.
Yep.
Jackie has great handwriting. I'm a doctor, so my handwriting sucks, but that's a whole other story. Um, but kids have horrible handwriting, and it's because what do we do most of the time? We don't give them a piece of paper and a pencil. We give them a computer.
Yeah,
We give them a
tablet.
device.
Yep.
So, yeah. So they can type really well, but they can't write. And so one of the things that we test is fine motor skills.
Would you hear a dying lost art is cursive?
Yes.
Is that's got to be brutal for a 7-year-old? I don't even know if they're I seriously doubt they teach that almost anywhere in the U.S. Right?
I seriously doubt they teach it as well.
Would that tell you anything if you started pick 5 letters and ask a 7-year-old print and then try to write it in cursive? Would that tell you anything?
Yeah, it would. Actually, what we do when a patient comes in or a student comes in, we actually give the parents a 22-page intake form. And then when they come in, so we have all the details. But when they come in, we ask the student, sign your name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing what we see. So if they don't have good handwriting when they sign their name, and that's probably one of the things they write most often, we can pretty much right off the bat saying you probably have fine motor skill issues. But again, we test that.
Wow. So why do most doctors have horrible handwriting? You brought it up.
Because we write a lot.
But
Seriously.
and your staff needs to know how to interpret your scribbling, correct?
Yes. And Jackie will go, "Okay, I can't read that. Write it again." So I've learned to have good printing. But when I'm writing quick, like for example, in the BNI meetings, as we talked about this. I will take notes.
Yep.
So what does Joe want? Well, Joe wants to see real estate agent and contractors. So I'll write it down. Well, Joe's talking quick, so I gotta write quick.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll go back. Real estate agent and cobblers.
Yeah. And crayons. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, do you have Dr. Tim shorthand just for you?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
What's one? Give me an example of something.
Well, it depends. So I tend to like if it's, I tend to niche little things. So for example, real estate agents is RE.
Yep.
Right. Contractors is GC, general contractor. So I'll do those types of things. And it makes sense if you're looking at certain groups of people.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll do GC and but that general contractor and that person's a baker.
Great cook. Is that what GC means?
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
All right, so let's talk about Jackie here. One of my favorite things with guests on the show to ask is, I want to know how you two met, and do you both tell the story the same way?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so Jackie was a Sunday school teacher. I was searching for a new church, and so my habit when I was looking for a church was to go in late, so I'd miss what I call the happy slappy stuff. And I would stand in the back and I would just kind of watch. And so this particular church was standing room only.
And where was this?
This was in Carlsbad, California.
Okay.
And she was a Sunday school teacher. And so she came out in her yellow sundress, and I pretty much fell in love right away.
Okay.
So the next week I came, I brought my boys. So we have a blended family. It's my sons, her daughter, and then we have a daughter together. So anyway, I brought my boys and got to meet her and talk to her, and it kind of developed from there. And we actually went out on our first date, or non-date as we used to call them, with the kids. And so that was a lot of fun. And she brought coconut peanut butter balls, which I ate several
Ooh.
of them,
Yep.
even though I can't stand coconut.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should tell you something right there.
Those are good.
And yeah, to answer your question, do we describe it the same way? Yes and no. She remembers me bringing the boys in. She doesn't remember me the first time I met her, but like, I don't understand how you can remember what I was wearing.
Mm.
And, so we've been married now for 25 years. Our oldest is 33. So when we met, actually, well, we married for 25 years, but been together for 27. We met, he was 6.
Mm.
And so, it's my son, her daughter, my son, and then our youngest daughter, which are all my kids. Even I think they love me best, even though she'll tell you the opposite.
You keep telling yourself that. It's cute.
Yeah.
Now, does the youngest daughter tell the other 3, I'm their favorite because
No,
she's both of yours?
no, actually, our oldest daughter, so Jackie's biological daughter, is the peacemaker of the family. So if
Ah,
there's ever anything going, sideways, she's the one who's calling you up, and if you're wrong, she'll tell you, hey, look, you screwed up. You need to fix this.
nice.
If if things are just, they're not quite copacetic, she'll fix it. She's a peacemaker. And then our youngest daughter's, she's the one who will reach out to you no matter what. So, if something, no matter what's going on in your life, she's the one who's going to reach out to you and go, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. Now, how old is she?
My youngest is 25.
All right,
She is,
who's she more like, mom or dad?
oh, more like me. Oh yeah, she's the brainiac. She knows. She went to Costa Rica when she was 15 for a year to learn Spanish. She is now in Middlebury Institute of International Studies, where she's now fluent in both Spanish and French. Her next language is Russian. She's being courted by several of the alphabet agencies. I
Yeah.
don't have any clue what she does. She actually told us, and I can repeat it if you paid me. But and I also know that at some point in her life, she's just going to say, "Yep, I've got a job." Not going
Uh,
to tell me what it is.
yeah.
I've got a job.
If you'll share the story the first time, I think Jackie and your daughter were at the dinner table when they asked you about her. She said she wanted to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah. So actually, it was in the living room. I walked
Okay.
in and we were there in the living room talking, and it was a very intense conversation. I came home from work. And I go, "So what's going on?" And Jackie goes, "Your daughter wants to go to Costa Rica." I went, "Okay." And she goes, "For a year." I went, "Okay." She wants to learn Spanish. Okay. Do you have anything to say about that? As long as she's safe. He goes, that's what she said.
And why did you know she was going to be safe?
She went to stay with friends.
Right. Okay. Love
But
that.
we knew. Yeah,
Jackie just threw her arms up and walked out of the room. Probably. Right.
exactly.
Now, I will
Exactly.
share with you from a husband standpoint, when we meet the woman that we really want to be with, we'll lie through our teeth to spend more time with them.
Uh-huh.
My wife and I, after our first date, we went back to her house and she goes, "Hey, you want me to put on some music?" I'm like, "Sure." She said, "Do you like Johnny Mathis?" I paused and went, "Sure." Do not care for Johnny Mathis at all. Still a running joke. Didn't care. I didn't want to leave. I wanted
Exactly.
time, and more talking.
Exactly.
So I will
Well, just
second.
to
And I'll
share
also
with you
real
really
quick.
quickly.
Yeah, real quick.
Oh,
I'll second the first time I saw her. Same
yeah.
thing. Yep.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, when Jack and I met, like I said, we've been together or not together. We'd been known each other, but not started dating. And I thought, I really want to get to know her. And I'm like, I should probably check with a minister who knows her real well.
Mhm.
So I called him up, and his name's Tony. And I said, "Hey, Tony, I'm thinking about, asking her out. What do you think?" And he said, "Let me call you back." And I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. So 5 minutes later, he calls me back and he goes, "She's dating somebody. She's not interested." And I went, okay, thank you. And then my immediate thought was, no,
No.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
So I started pursuing her.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because what you want to tell Tony is that wasn't my question.
Exactly.
And how long did it take from the time you hung up with Tony to call Jackie and ask her out?
About 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
she was
what
she
is it?
dating somebody at the time?
She was. She
Uh,
actually told me the same thing, and I was
uh,
like, okay, well, I we can still just hang out as friends. And
yeah.
at some point, she actually told me, she said, I liked you better than like him, so I made him break up with me.
Ooh, nice
Yeah.
move. I need it one day when Jackie and I meet. I need to know how that went down. So,
Oh,
uh,
she'll tell you. She's got stories.
oh, I can't wait. So, well, then what got you guys to North Carolina?
Work. So going back to previous lifetime, I was a software engineer for a company in San Diego as a contractor. The contract ended, and I could not find more work, so I started branching out, and I found a job in Florida, working for Florida Blue, which is the Blue Cross Blue Shield affiliate.
Mm.
That was, excuse me, 18 months, and at 18 months they went goodbye. And I found another job in Michigan. Jackie came out to Michigan. She stayed in Florida. She came out to Michigan once and went, I'm not living here.
Mm.
And so I got an offer here in North Carolina. And I said, let's do this. This is great. It's got all the four seasons. It's pleasant. She came here and she went, okay, this works.
And from the time you moved to North Carolina till you hung up the phone and said, "I have to get a certificate or a degree," how long a time frame we talking about?
Oh, that was back in California. So I was
Ah,
doing business consulting in California. Um, so that was 2023 now. It was 2009 when I said that.
okay.
Yeah,
All right. And you've had your doctorate for how long?
8 or 9 years now.
All right. Can I assume then you're a pretty good test taker?
Sometimes, usually I am.
Okay. Is there another degree in your future to get?
No, I want to just write books and do what we're doing and have fun.
Have you started writing a book yet?
I actually wrote a book. If you go out on Amazon, look for Retribution is the name of the book, and you have to search by Retribution Beck because there's like 3 or 4 of them out there. But I wrote it. It's a murder mystery.
Ooh,
I've also written a children's book that's been published. It's called The Genie in the Lamp. But
wow.
yeah, those were fun. I'm actually, I want to write, well, I started another book called Murder is Messy, but I'm not sure where I'm going to take that.
Kid,
But I want to, I,
good, good.
I want to write a book about a dog and his people. Or her
Hmm.
people actually. And I want to write 3 books. So the dog when it's a puppy, the dog when it's older, and the dog when it's an old dog, and the people. And I'm going to stretch the truth a little bit because dogs only live, somewhere between 10 and 18 years. To the dog living as old as a human being,
All
and
right.
kind of want that whole relationship we develop with the dog because I think
Yeah.
that you can tell a lot in a story by having the hero, the protagonist, talking to the dog.
Yeah.
So a lot of emotions and stuff can come out that way.
And it is amazing the connection we have with. I never had cats, had a dog growing up. The boys had a dog growing up, but just talking, watching people's facial expressions and their voice change when they talk about their dog or dogs.
Yes.
It is the first one we moved to Florida in 1999. I'd never really lived anywhere where there were constant hurricanes coming your way. And so we moved there in February of 1999. And then when hurricane season rolled around, we'd made some friends and they said, okay, here's what you need to know. Cause there's plenty of books you can read about and stuff on how to prepare for that. But we told some friends like, all right, what do we really need to know? And they said, okay, step number 1, go to the pet store. Step number 2, go to the liquor store. Step number 3, go to the grocery store. But the pet store was always number 1 with everybody we asked, what's the first thing you do? The dogs and the pets are getting taken care of. It is amazing. But yeah, kids growing up with dogs are wonderful stories. And I'm sure, do you have a time frame on those books?
No, I'm just sort of developing the concept and writing down the notes. No, not yet.
Now, one of the other notes I found on you was you helped develop a program for kids to transition from high school to college.
That would not be me.
Well, it must have been another Tim Beck, but I swore I read it on your bio. Anyways, that's a tough transition anyways with no, speed
It
bumps or
is.
anything like that. So,
It
uh,
is. I do. There's through Rotary, which I was a member of for 10 years. There's a thing called Rotary Leadership Institute. I'm not sorry, RYLA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. And there's in Greensboro, that group had me come talk to them every year. I talk to this group of kids, and so they are transitioning from high school into college. And my talk, it's literally just a talk and then a program called Culture Walk. It's designed to teach them that whatever they think they're going through, they're not alone,
mm.
and that they can make their way through it. But it's just a talk. It's not a program.
Yeah, but that's a tough transition. Even if you have a friend going to that college with you, it's like,
Mhm.
wow, I just got dropped into this place I've never been. And yeah, got to make friends, survive, handle your own money usually. Wait, where are all my classes? Plenty of things to go on to. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, for the folks that have been to watching and listening, um, if they have a child, if they have an inkling of, you know what, something's not clicking, what should they do?
So what I'd recommend is they come see us. Let's do an assessment. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We really should charge for it, but currently we don't. And so at the end of that, we'll produce it's a 10-page report. It could be less depending upon what we find, could be slightly more, but it's about 10 pages. And it details all the things that we tested, what we found in terms of, is the child, as an example, at age level, are they below age level, are they, where are they in terms of all the tests that we do. And then we will tell you, here's what we recommend. um, you'd think that being in business, we would always recommend they come see us, but sometimes we will say, you don't need to see us. As an example, we had actually an adult come to us, and he thought, okay, I've got this, serious issues. And we tested him like, no, you really don't. Here's what we recommend. Here's a set of exercises. Go home and do these. And then come, give us a call in 4 weeks. And if you're mastered these, we'll give you another set. But you don't need to come see us because your issues aren't that serious. Um, on the other side of that, we've actually had students who've come in who are highly autistic, as an example. So they're severe, and we will run them through a program that might take a couple of years. It's not um, that we can't solve the problem. We can't, get them to where they need to be. It's that it just takes a long time because of how severe it is. However, we'll detail all that, and we'll tell you, this is what we found. This is what it's going to take to get you to where you want to be, to meet all of your goals, and to meet the child's goals, and make everybody, happy, essentially.
It's should parents go get further information from the school, either the teacher or a counselor? Is that beneficial? Or are they really going to learn anything more about what maybe their son or daughter's going through?
No, actually, that's a great question, because the thing that we always say is, look, no matter who you're going to see, whether it's a counselor or a professional like an OT or ABA or whatever, if they're telling you there's a problem, then one thing you could ask them is, what is going on in the brain of my child? And I would bet you that most of them are going to be able to say, I don't know. And we can tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Dr. Tim, thank you very much. Folks, if you have anything going on with a family member you just want to know more about, please, we've been putting Dr. Tim's phone number up there. Dr. Tim, what's your website?
NeuroFitConnections.com. So NeuroFit, the word connections.com.
All right. And they'll get a little bit more information on what you do,
Yeah.
some of your other
Yeah.
programs.
Yep, and you can schedule a free assessment there. If you just have questions, by the way, at the very bottom of the homepage is a link that you can schedule a meeting with the coach. And it's a 15-minute call, and she'll answer any questions you can ask in 15 minutes.
Very nice. That is a good thing. And do you, has Jackie made your holiday plans, or do you get a say so in these?
So the question, remember, all of my kids are scattered across the country. So my oldest son is in Chicago. My youngest is in San Diego. My oldest daughter's in Charlotte. My youngest is in California, Monterey, California. So we know that for a fact that the two boys aren't coming. They've got other family issues, and that the oldest daughter's not coming. So it's a question of whether the youngest daughter's coming. If she comes to Charlotte, to North Carolina, then we're going to stay home. If she's not, we have not taken a vacation this year, and we want to get away for a couple of days and go hiking.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts?
Up in Asheville,
Okay.
in Brevard County, do the waterfall hike.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting. We only have 2 kids, but they're both married with kids, and so coordinating. So this year we had both of our boys for Thanksgiving, but we don't get them for Christmas. But next year we get them for Christmas, not Thanksgiving. So
Yeah,
you start playing those work schedule and other family obligations.
exactly.
Anyways, Dr. Tim, thanks for being on the show. Thank you for sharing what you do and how you help folks and kind of what we can look for. I know there's some good takeaways for us. So we thank you
My
for being
pleasure.
on the show, and hope you guys, I think I'm going to pull for your daughter coming home, because I think you'd rather see her than go hiking in the mountains. I'm going to speak for you. You do not have to acknowledge that one way or the other, because this is being recorded. I'd hate for Jackie to see this. So
She will, I'm sure.
yeah, but either way, have a Merry Christmas, and I think I'll see you guys.
too.
I think I'll see you one more time at your BNI meeting. But again, appreciate the time today,
Thank you, sir.
and we'll see
Thank you for being
everybody
on.
next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.